Some people don't just tolerate being alone. They absolutely thrive in it. And psychology says that's not a flaw. It's a massive advantage. If you're someone who genuinely gets more excited about a quiet Friday night in your pajamas than a Friday night out in a crowded bar, welcome. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why. Before we go any further, we need to make one thing clear, because getting this wrong changes everything. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness is being alone and not wanting to be. It's isolation without choice. It's that hollow feeling of wanting connection and not having it, and it genuinely hurts. Psychologists treat it as a health concern. It raises cortisol, disrupts sleep, and over time it can be as damaging as smoking. Solitude is something entirely different. Solitude is choosing to be alone. It's putting the phone down on purpose. It's turning down the invitation, not because you're scared, but because the quiet is where you actually feel like yourself. The key word is choice. People who thrive alone aren't hiding from the world. They're not damaged. They're not antisocial in the clinical sense. They're just wired to recharge differently. And that distinction matters, because the moment we stop treating solitude as a symptom, we can start seeing it for what it actually is. Society romanticizes the loud, extroverted life, the influencers, the constant parties, and the live your best life culture. What if your best life is zero obligations and a quiet documentary? That is not sad. That is self-awareness. Why do some minds overheat in crowds? Extroverts actually recharge their energy by being around people, feeding off the noise, movement, and chaos. But for others, social environments are a sensory overload. Every single social interaction, even a fun one, slowly drains their battery. Psychologists refer to this as optimal arousal theory. It means some people require high stimulation to feel good, while others need significantly less. Your brain might just burn energy faster in groups, making home the only charger that actually works for you. Staying home isn't just doing nothing. Solitude isn't an escape. It's a training ground. Studies reveal that individuals who enjoy solitude tend to be much more creative, highly introspective, and incredibly effective at problem solving. When you step away from the noise, you build stronger self-regulation and a more stable identity. The best ideas aren't usually born in a packed, noisy room. They are born in a quiet corner with a book or during a deep thought spiral at 2 a.m. Alone time provides essential emotional decompression. There's a concept in psychology called emotional granularity, the ability to identify and name your emotions precisely rather than just knowing you feel bad or good. People with high emotional granularity handle stress better, recover faster from setbacks, and are less likely to use harmful coping strategies. They don't just feel sad. They can tell the difference between feeling disappointed, melancholy, exhausted, or overlooked, and that precision gives them more control over what they do next. People who spend regular time alone tend to develop this naturally. When you're not constantly in reaction mode, responding to other people, managing a room, performing some version of yourself, you get quieter inside. And in that quiet, you start to notice things, the shape of your emotions, what actually bothered you, what you actually need. That's emotional literacy. And it's one of the rarest and most valuable things a person can develop. People who enjoy their solitude often show exceptional impulse control because they practice sitting with their feelings instead of constantly running from them. By setting up an environment where they strictly control the lighting, the noise, and the overall vibe, people with high sensitivity turn their solitude into a powerful tool for survival and self-soothing. Quiet minds see what loud rooms hide. Have you ever noticed how the loudest person in the room is usually the most scared, while the quietest person is watching, listening, calculating, and already 3 steps ahead? Solitude actively boosts your pattern recognition. Because they aren't constantly fighting to be heard, people who like being alone easily pick up on subtle social dynamics, emotional shifts, and environmental details that everyone else misses. What creates this solo mindset? It is a deep, unshakable independence and a remarkably low need for external validation. In psychology, this is known as a low stimulation preference. They don't fear the quiet, they grow in it. They don't need the outside world to constantly entertain them because their inner world is already rich enough. They stop negotiating their peace for cheap dopamine hits that leave people feeling more numb than alive. When you are calm, you stop chasing things that don't matter and stop trying to impress people you don't even like. When you're not fighting for attention, you can finally focus on the truth. So how does this solo advantage play out in real life? Creativity. The research on this is consistent. Solitude and creative output are closely linked, not because people are more talented, but because creative thinking requires something that crowds rarely provide: uninterrupted internal space. The idea needs room to develop before it gets judged. Problem solving. People who are comfortable sitting alone with a difficult problem, without immediately turning to someone else for the answer, often develop a more thorough relationship with complexity. They sit in it longer, they turn it over more. That's where real solutions tend to come from. Emotional resilience. When you've spent time actually processing your emotions rather than burying them in busyness, you build a tolerance for discomfort that most people don't have. Not numbness, tolerance. You know you can feel hard things and come through the other side. Boundaries. And perhaps most practically, people who value their alone time tend to protect it. They understand intuitively that their energy is finite. They get better at saying no, not out of rudeness, but because they've learned what yes actually costs them. Solitude becomes a superpower, but only when it's intentional. I want to say something clearly to anyone watching who has ever felt embarrassed about needing this, about preferring their own company, about turning things down, about being the one who goes home early. There is nothing wrong with you. The world tends to reward loudness. It celebrates the person who fills the room. And somewhere along the way, a lot of quiet people internalized the idea that if they aren't that, if they don't crave that, something must be missing. Nothing is missing. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not less. You might just be someone who does their best thinking in the quiet. And that is not a weakness. It has never been a weakness. The world has always been shaped, in large part, by people who spent enough time alone to actually figure out what they thought about it. That could be you. So let me ask you, do you genuinely enjoy being alone, or does it depend on the situation? Tell me your experience down in the comments. I read every single one. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe. Stay strong, protect your peace, and as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.